It was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway. After 3 exhausting months at work, I booked a small, well-rated Airbnb in upstate Vermont. A quiet A-frame cabin surrounded by pines, far from traffic and notifications. I wasn't looking for luxury, just isolation and silence. The host, Marie, messaged me the check-in instructions. Key is in lockbox. Don't forget to sign the guest book, smiling face with smiling eyes. That smiley face felt oddly formal, but I shrugged it off. The cabin was beautiful, small but cozy, with creaky wooden floors and floor-to-ceiling windows facing the trees. There was no Wi-Fi, no cell service, and the nearest neighbor was a quarter-mile away. Just what I wanted. After I settled in, I noticed the guest book on the kitchen table. A thick, hardbound notebook with "Welcome to the Pines" etched in gold lettering on the front. I didn't think much of it, just a gimmick most Arabs have. I opened it casually, expecting to see cheesy vacation notes from couples or families. The first few pages were normal. Loved our stay. Beautiful weather, great trails nearby. 3 nights wasn't enough. We'll be back. But the further I flipped, the more uneasy the entries got. Something knocked on the window at 2 a.m., thought it was an animal. Looked out, no footprints in the snow. Voices near the woods after midnight. Thought we were alone out here. Do not stay more than 2 nights. My stomach turned a bit. I told myself it was probably someone playing a prank or trying to be edgy. Still, I locked the doors that night and kept the fire going. Around 12:30 a.m., I woke up suddenly. Something had tapped the window behind me. Not banged. Tapped. Twice. I held my breath, heart racing. The window faced the woods. I was on the 2nd floor. Nothing should be able to reach that window. I stayed in bed, motionless, until morning. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe a branch hit the glass. Maybe I dreamed it. I made coffee and sat outside, trying to shake the paranoia. By midday, I decided to explore the woods around the cabin. I stuck close to the trailhead that ran behind the property, but something strange caught my eye near a tree about 40 feet from the cabin. A torn page. I picked it up. It had lines like notebook paper, but it was older, yellowed and faded. On it, in messy handwriting. You can hear them better when it's quiet. They hate the guest book. Don't write in it. I froze. It didn't seem like it had been left there accidentally. It was tucked into the bark of the tree, like someone placed it there on purpose. I went back inside. The guest book was still on the table where I left it. I flipped to the back. The last entry was dated almost a year ago. We tried leaving early. Flat tire. No service. Saw someone standing near the woods all night. Not Marie. I stood frozen in my own skin. I wanted to pack and leave, but I'd already paid, and the main road was icy. Still, I made up my mind. I'd leave in the morning. That night, as I sat on the couch reading, the power went out. Total blackout. The temperature dropped fast. I grabbed my flashlight and extra blankets and huddled on the couch, watching my breath fog the air. Then I heard it again. Same window. This time I got up. I aimed the flashlight slowly toward the window, dreading what I might see. Nothing. But right before I turned away, I saw something low on the glass. A handprint. Not fresh. Like it had been there a long time, but only showed up under the condensation. I didn't sleep that night. I left at dawn. Didn't pack. Just grabbed my bag, phone, and keys and bolted to the car. As I drove down the snow-covered road, I finally got 1 bar of service. My phone lit up with a message from Marie. Hey, hope everything's going well. Just a reminder to sign the guest book before you leave, smiling face with smiling eyes. I didn't reply. 30 minutes later, I was back in town. I stopped at a gas station to get coffee and warm up. The clerk, a woman in her 60s, saw my car and asked if I'd stayed up at the Pines. I nodded. Her smile faded. That place hasn't been rented out in a year. No one's been willing to keep it listed. I pulled out my phone and showed her the Airbnb listing. She glanced at it and whispered, "That's not Marie." I reported the listing. Airbnb took it down a few days later with no explanation. I never found out who had been maintaining the place, or why there were so many warnings in the guest book. But I know this. I never signed it, and I think that's the only reason I made it out. My name's Zachary Hill, and this happened last December during a solo road trip from Portland to Northern California. I planned a quiet 2-week getaway, ride a little hike unplugged. On my way down the coast, I booked a last-minute Airbnb in a small Oregon town called Norhill. It wasn't even on Google Maps until I zoomed in twice. The house was a beautiful old Victorian listed as cozy vintage charm. The picture showed a library room, clawfoot tub, and a small study with a typewriter. The host's name was Caleb. His reviews were few, but glowing. I arrived at 3:45 p.m. The house stood alone, about a half-mile from the nearest neighbor, surrounded by pine trees and mist. A narrow gravel path led up to it, the kind of place that made you think of snow globes and fireplaces. Inside, it smelled faintly of lavender and something else. Aged wood, maybe. The heat was on. A kettle whistled softly on the stove, as if someone had just stepped out. There was even a basket of snacks on the counter with a note. "Welcome, Zach. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. Feel free to explore the library." Caleb. That night, I sat by the fire in the study and flipped through old paperbacks. One thing caught my eye, a thick leather-bound guest book placed on a small table near the bookshelf. The first page dated back to 2005. Amazing house. Would love to come again. Perfect for writing. Stayed 5 days, saw deer. Then one entry, sloppy handwriting, dated only last week. He watches from the trees. Don't stay out past dark. I assumed it was a joke, until I looked out the window and saw someone standing still at the tree lean. The figure didn't move. He stood just beyond the edge of the woods. Not close, but not far enough to ignore. No flashlight, no coat, just there, like he'd been watching a while. I kept the lights off and sat frozen for almost 5 minutes. Then he turned and walked back into the woods. The next morning, I try not to overthink it. Could have been a hunter, a neighbor, someone lost. Still, I decided to ask the host. I texted Caleb. "Hey, might sound weird, but I saw someone near the woods last night. Just making sure there aren't trails nearby." No reply. By noon, still nothing. I opened the guest book again. I flipped through the back pages. Most were clean. Then a folded piece of paper slipped out between 2 blank pages. A loose sheet torn from a journal. "There's a light that never turns off, 2nd floor hallway. But I swear, every time I look, it's just turned off. Last night, the same guy. Watching. I left the day early. I checked the hallway. Sure enough, day 3, I planned to leave early. I didn't care if I lost the booking fee. My gut was screaming, but curiosity got the better of me. I checked the guest book one last time. That creepy message about someone watching from the woods? It was gone. The page was still there, but the message had been ripped out cleanly. You could still see the impression from the pen on the page beneath it. I want to take a picture, something to show Airbnb or the police if I needed to. My phone buzzed. New message from Caleb. "Please leave the guest book alone." That was it. No greeting. No explanation. I grabbed my backpack, walked straight to my car. But something fell off, like I was being watched again. When I looked up to the 2nd floor window, I saw someone's silhouette, but I hadn't been upstairs once. I left fast, didn't even pack the rest of my stuff. Just drove for almost an hour without stopping. That night, at a motel 2 towns over, I reported the listing to Airbnb. I said someone else was in the house, that I was being watched. They replied the next morning. "Hi, Zachary. There's no listing under that name or address in Norhill. Or, can you please confirm the link?" I checked the app. Gone. As if it never existed. I dug through my email for the booking confirmation. It was there. But when I clicked the receipt, it redirected to a 404 error. I called local authorities in Norhill. The officer on the line said,
"Sir, There haven't been any active Airbnb rentals here in years. You sure you were in Norhill?
But I was. I still had the snacks bag, the worn guest book page I'd secretly pocketed, and a photo I'd taken of the woods from the back porch. When I zoomed into that photo, there were two people in the tree line, not one. Neither of them was me. I booked the Airbnb for quiet. After 6 months of nonstop work in New York, I needed a break. So I chose a small town in Vermont. Snowy, quiet, and away from everything. The house was listed as a modern renovated farmhouse and looked stunning in the photos. White siding, open kitchen, fireplace, woods behind it. Perfect. The host's name was Heather, and she messaged me friendly reminders before my arrival. I drove 6 hours to get there. Pulled up to the house around 4 p.m. and used the key code she sent. The house was silent, a bit too cold, but beautiful. The kitchen and living room were cozy. I unpacked and lit the fireplace with a log she'd left. By evening, everything felt peaceful. It was snowing outside, and I had the kind of quiet I'd been craving. Then, around 9 p.m., I noticed something strange. Near the laundry room was a door I hadn't seen in the listing. A narrow wooden one, painted white to match the walls. But it had no handle, just a faint keyhole. Out of curiosity, I messaged Heather. Hey, just wondering, what's the little white door near the washer? Looks like it leads to the basement. She replied 10 minutes later. Oh, that's just storage. It's sealed. Please don't worry about it, smiling face with smiling eyes. Her tone felt off, like she replied too quickly, too rehearsed. Still, I let it go. I went to bed around midnight, but I couldn't sleep, because sometime after 2 a.m., I heard a tap. Not from the front door, from the floor, from under me. 3 short taps, then silence. The next morning, I tried to rationalize everything. Old house, pipes, wind, whatever. I made coffee and sat near the fireplace, reading. But I couldn't stop glancing toward that sealed door near the laundry. Around noon, I checked it again. No markings, just a keyhole, and something I hadn't noticed before. Faint scratches along the wood, like something had been dragged into it. I tried to forget it. Went out for a walk, came back, made dinner. Night 2 came fast. It was around 11:30 p.m. when the noise returned, from under the floorboards. This time louder, more deliberate, then a dragging sound. I stood still in the kitchen, lights off, barely breathing. Then it stopped, until directly behind that sealed door. I backed away, slowly. I messaged Heather again. Hey, I think there might be something in your basement. Possibly an animal or something loose. She left me on read. For 2 hours. At 2:12 a.m., she finally replied. I understand it's unsettling, but I promise nothing is down there. Please do not attempt to open it. But now I had to know, so I knelt down with my phone light and looked at the keyhole. And from the other side, I swear I heard breathing. I barely slept. When I woke up, I decided I was leaving that day. No refund, no explanation. Just gone. As I packed, I walked past the laundry room and noticed something that made my stomach drop. The door. The sealed door. It was slightly ajar. Still no handle. Just cracked open half an inch. And the wood beneath it? Vet. I didn't even put my boots on. I grabbed my bag and sprinted to the car. As I pulled away from the driveway, I looked back once. Heather was there, standing at the edge of the woods, wearing a gray coat, staring, not moving. That night, back at Motel 2 towns over, I looked up the address on a hunch. It used to be a group home, closed after a lawsuit in 1998. An investigation had been launched, but never finished. Rumors said one patient disappeared and was never found. They sealed the basement that same year. I reported the listing to Airbnb. It was gone the next morning. Not delisted. Gone. Like it was never there.